What rookies have been the most impressive so far throughout training camp? Let's start off talking about Bryce Young, man. This dude has been an absolute baller. He's been as good as advertised. He's been poised in the pocket, really accurate, distributing the football. His processing ability has really stood out. If you see any training camp clips about Bryce Young coming out, you normally see him getting the ball out really fast. It's like this dude is a computer. You ever played against the AI offense in Madden, and the AI quarterback for some reason just seems to have eyes in the back of their head? It only takes them 3 seconds to find the open wide receiver. That's Bryce Young. This dude kind of has like an AI programming chip in his brain. He just seems to know where everybody is at the right moment. And there was a reason why Frank Wright and the Carolina Panthers organization felt comfortable naming him the starter on opening day of training camp. They wouldn't have named him the starting quarterback this early if they didn't have a lot of confidence, if he wasn't able to prove that he has a good grasp on the offense. He's been the most impressive rookie quarterback in training camp up to this point. He's been better than CJ Stroud, better than Anthony Richardson. He did have a little bit of a turnover bug. There was a stretch where he went 5 consecutive days with an interception, but he didn't have any multiple interception days or any that have been reported. He's been fantastic with developing good chemistry with his teammates. He already has earned the leadership. Well, he's already gained the respect of the locker room. He is already viewed as a leader, and the season hasn't even started yet. So these are all really positive things that have been said about Bryce Young up to this point in training camp. Zay Flowers at wide receiver probably is the best wideout that the Ravens have in training camp right now. Yes, they do have OBJ. Rashad Bateman's going to get fully healthy. But if you were to ask any Ravens fan who's been in attendance at training camp, Zay Flowers has been the most impressive wideout there. His route running has been fantastic. This dude has been routing up every single cornerback that he's been matched up against. He has great hands. But the biggest thing about Zay Flowers that has stuck out the most is how great he is after the catch. They call him Joystick, which is his new nickname, because once he gets into the open field, he's like a pinball. He's boom, boom, boom. He puts his foot in the ground, hits you with a couple of moves, and then he's off to the races. He was my number 1 ranked receiver coming out of the draft class. He reminds me a lot of Antonio Brown. He has great hands. He has the ability to play not just outside wide out, but he also can play inside of the slot. He's really good releasing off the line. I don't really see too many defenders jam him up at the line of scrimmage. Zay Flowers is the complete package at wide receiver. He is undersized. He's only 5'9", 180-something pounds, but he's one of those wide receivers that plays bigger than what you see on paper. On paper, you see 5'9", 182 pounds, but in person, he plays like he's 6'3", 210. He can do everything. He has good hands. He also has good body control in the air when it comes to making some of these 50-50 ball catches. Even though winning 50-50 balls isn't his strong suit, he does have the ability to go up and get a couple of contested catches here and there. Zay Flowers has been the most outstanding rookie throughout training camp so far out of all of the rookie wide receivers. Bijan Robinson, if you've been on Twitter or social media, you had to see at least one Bijan Robinson clip. This dude has been going viral. He's been trending on Twitter for the last couple of days. He's been lining up at wideout. He's been routing up not just linebackers, but cornerbacks also. He's been dynamic with the ball in his hands. Anything that you need Bijan Robinson to do, he can do. You want him to go out and play wide receiver, he can do that. You want to line him up in the slot, he can do that as well. And also, he's a very effective running back. He has had some really great runs throughout training camp for the Atlanta Falcons. I was telling people that Bijan Robinson was a different breed. This isn't your normal running back. This is the definition of a weapon. And if these running backs want to start, getting paid and demanding hefty salaries, they got to be more versatile. Catching the football out of the backfield and being a great running back isn't going to cut it anymore. You got to be able to be a big asset in the passing game, and that's what Bijan Robinson has been for the Atlanta Falcons in training camp. Yes, he's a credible running back, but he's just as good as a wide receiver as he is a running back, and we've seen that on full display throughout training camp for the Falcons up to this point. Jalen Carter, man. The Philadelphia Eagles have done a fantastic job at drafting players in the draft over the last couple of years, and they got a lot of Bulldogs on their roster. And Jalen Carter, he's been looking like a Bulldog so far for the Philadelphia Eagles in training camp, man. This dude is a freak. Teammates have raved about his quickness, his great blend of athleticism, but also power. This dude is a Wolverine. He's a mutant. He's not human. At 300 and something pounds, with the kind of athleticism that Jalen Carter has, it should be illegal for him to even be able to play in the NFL, man. And he's been making a lot of noise throughout training camp for Philadelphia. He's been having some really good reps against the opposing offensive linemen in 1v1s. He recently was credited with a sack against Jalen Hurts on one of the opening days of training camp. Jalen Carter has been as good as advertised. And the thing with Jalen Carter is that most people felt that he was going to be really good. The chances of him being a bust are pretty low compared to some of the other defensive prospects who were drafted in the first round along with him. But you wonder if the character issues are going to hinder him from being able to reach his potential. So far throughout training camp, there haven't been any personal issues with Jalen Carter. He's been showing up to training camp. He's been putting in a lot of work. He's been putting in the time and dedication that it takes to be a pro. He's around a lot of great veterans in that locker room. Jalen Carter, I think he's going to be the next great pass rushing defensive tackle that we have in the league. You don't really find a lot of them, which is why Jalen Carter was regarded in such a high light. Even though you had the character issues, there was still a chance that he possibly could have went in the top 5 just off talent alone. So if you take away the character issues, this is somebody who was one of the most talented defensive prospects to come out of a draft in recent memory. We talk about generational quarterbacks, but people act like quarterbacks are the only generational prospects who can come out. You can also have generational prospects on the defense side of the football, and Jalen Carter is one of those guys that you're not going to see come around too often. He's been really impressive so far throughout training camp for the Philadelphia Eagles, but he hasn't been the most impressive rookie that the Eagles have. Nolan Smith has been. If you talk to anybody in attendance at Philadelphia Eagles training camp, everybody's going to say the man of the hour has been pass rusher Nolan Smith out of Georgia. This dude was a freak athlete coming out of UGA. He ran a 4.39 40 in the 40-yard dash a couple of months ago at the NFL Combine. And what has been the most impressive thing about Nolan Smith so far? His quick burst off the line, his explosiveness, his acceleration. This dude has been wreaking havoc for the Philadelphia Eagles defense all throughout training camp. Every time I look up Philadelphia Eagles training camp takeaways and news, there are always glowing reviews about Nolan Smith. Every single practice, man, this dude looks like a metahuman. He destroyed the tight end that was trying to block him, pretty much put him on his you-know-what. He also has been moved around on the defense. He's been playing a little bit of off-ball linebacker, defensive end. He's been just doing a lot of different stuff on this Philadelphia Eagles defense, and I think that he's going to have a really good rookie season. And Nolan Smith was viewed as a developmental project. He was one of those players that has a lot of athleticism and a lot of high upside, but he needs to improve on a good amount of things. So far, though, it looks like Nolan Smith could come and start right away for the Philadelphia Eagles week 1 this year, and he could dominate right out the gate with all of the great things that we've been hearing coming out about Nolan Smith. And when I've seen a couple of clips circulating around about what he's been doing in training camp, rather if it's just him practicing with the dummies or doing 1v1s. He's been very impressive in all of those clips. Jory Porter Jr. for the Pittsburgh Steelers has been one of the most impressive players all throughout training camp. We already have seen what George Pickens has been doing, and George Pickens has kind of been picking on the rookie Jory Porter Jr., but Jory Porter has also came up a couple of times on George Pickens and has made some plays in coverage against them. It hasn't just been a one-sided equation. Jory Porter, he was one of the better cornerbacks coming out of this past year's draft, and the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted him with their first pick in the second round. He's the son of former Steeler great linebacker Jory Porter, and what stands out about Jory Porter the most is his physicality, and he's been insanely physical in training camp, and Mike Tomlin has been pitting him and George Pickens against each other in these 1v1 drills for a reason. You got George Pickens, one of the most physical wide receivers in the NFL, going against Jory Porter, an ultra-aggressive and physical press man-to-man corner. This is the kind of matchup that you live for if you're Mike Tomlin. You got young stud on young stud, and although George Pickens has gotten the better of Jory Porter Jr., he's also came up big in some of their matchups, and he also has made some really big plays in 11 on 11. He had an interception on Kenny Pickett in the 2-minute drill. He also caught 2 interceptions in one practice last Thursday. He's a quick learner. Mike Tomlin says that he's been really good when it comes to picking up the playbook. He's been putting in the time. He's been putting in the work. And I expect him to not just be a day one starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but to be an impact player for this Steelers defense this year. Been really good when it comes to how Jory Porter has been talked about amongst players and coaches in the Steelers organization. Dalton Kincaid. Normally, tight ends don't have great rookie seasons because the tight end position is a really nuanced position. It takes a lot to be a great tight end in the league. Not only do you have to be a really great route runner and learn the route tree, but you also have to learn the pass protections and the run blocking assignments that are given to tight ends. Dalton Kincaid, though, he's been picking up on everything really fast, and he's been one of the most discussed players coming out of training camp for the Buffalo Bills. And we keep asking who's going to step up and be that second wide receiver in this offense behind Stephon Diggs. It might be Dalton Kincaid. He may be the second option in this passing game. And like I said earlier, rookie tight ends normally don't have a lot of success, or they don't hit the ground running in their rookie seasons. But Dalton Kincaid, he may be in store for a Kyle Pitts kind of rookie season. They've been moving him around on the offense, not just to see playing tight end, but he also has been moved out wide. And there's been a lot of comparisons made from Dalton Kincaid to Travis Kelce. He has a little bit of Travis Kelce in his game. He's really solid and efficient when it comes to running routes and getting open and creating separation. He has soft hands, so he doesn't really drop too many passes. He was really good playing for Utah last season, and the Buffalo Bills, it looks like they're going to be relying on him a lot this year in this offense to take some pressure off of Stephon Diggs in the passing game. People wanted the Buffalo Bills to target DeAndre Hopkins or another elite wideout to pair alongside of Stephon Diggs, but instead of coming away with another great wide receiver, they might have ended up striking gold and coming away with another great tight end. Anytime you have a great tight end in your offense, it changes so much for you, because having to defend against an elite tight end, if your opposing defense, makes you have to do a lot of things defensively that kind of put you at a disadvantage. If you can move a tight end out wide and he can still get open against defensive backs, it's a mismatch, because most defensive backs aren't physical enough to be able to cover these tight ends. And then after the catch, they can be a problem as well, because there's not too many defensive backs who are really good tacklers in this day and age of football. Dalton Kincaid, It looks like he's going to have a really big role in this Buffalo Bills offense. Jackson Smith-Njigba. This dude was one of my favorite prospects coming out of this past year's draft, and he's been sensational for the Seattle Seahawks. As a matter of fact, if you go on social media, you're most likely are going to see more Jackson Smith-Njigba clips coming out than you're going to see any other player. He's been the best wide receiver for Seattle so far, at least the most talked about wide receiver for Seattle. He's been Geno Smith's go-to target, and this dude has been a handful for Seattle cornerbacks to be able to handle, man. He made Kobe Bryant touch the ground, pick up a little bit of grass in the process on his way up. Jackson Smith-Njigba, man, JSN, he's just an all-around great receiver. He doesn't have the explosiveness and the athleticism that Zay Flowers has, but this dude is the definition of a technician at the slot receiver position. He reminds me a lot of Keenan Allen. He's not a dynamic athlete, but what does Keenan Allen have that makes him a great receiver? Great hands, great route running, and a high football IQ. And those are all things that JSN has in common with Keenan Allen, which is why my comp for him was Keenan when he was coming out of Ohio State. Looking forward to seeing what JSN does in the regular season for the Seahawks this year, because so far in training camp, he's been unstoppable, and there isn't too many defensive backs who have been able to guard him in 1v1s. Cornerback Christian Gonzalez, man, he's been really hyped up ever since the NFL Combine when he had that insane performance there. He has great size. He also has quick change of direction, great hips, which is something that you normally don't see a lot coming from somebody who has this kind of size and these measurables. And the fact that the New England Patriots were able to draft him at the position that they were at was a big steal for them, because there were many people who considered Christian Gonzalez to be a top 10 pick. The New England Patriots are banking on Christian Gonzalez having a big season, and so far he's having a really good camp. There has been a lot of matchups between him and Devontae Parker. He's been on the winning end of those 1v1 battles the majority of times, which is expected. Devontae Parker isn't really that good when it comes to creating separation, so you would expect for Christian Gonzalez to be able to hold his own against them. I think him, Jory Porter, and the next dude that I have are going to end up being in competition to be two of the better rookie cornerbacks in the NFL. It's either going to be Christian Gonzalez and Jory Porter, or Christian Gonzalez and Devon Witherspoon, or Christian Gonzalez and maybe the next guy that I have on this list being in competition for the right to be the best rookie corner in the NFL this year. I think he's either going to be the best or the second best, depending on how this season goes for the New England Patriots. You're looking at a guy who's going to be able to go toe-to-toe against a Stephon Diggs and be able to limit him with how athletic he is, how good in man coverage he is. He's also really physical on the line. I don't think there's anything that Christian Gonzalez can't do that Bill Belichick's going to be asking from him in this defense. He's been lights out in training camp for the New England Patriots, and you probably could call him a shutdown corner just based on what we've been hearing coming out of Foxborough concerning Christian Gonzalez's performance in camp for the Patriots. Emmanuel Forbes is the last player that I have. I haven't really been seeing a lot of great things said about Emmanuel Forbes outside of Washington Commanders fans raving about him, and it's not because he is overrated or he's not that good. It's because it's the Washington Commanders, and nobody's really expecting the Commanders to be all that great. Emmanuel Forbes, though, if you look at the Commanders' training camp reports, he's been holding his own against Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. Emmanuel Forbes was one of the better coverage cornerbacks coming out of this past year's draft. The issue with him is that he came in at 166 pounds. Well, word on the street is that he's nearing 180, or he has a goal of trying to get to 180 something pounds before the season begins. He weighs way more now than what he did when he was weighed in at the NFL Combine. So he's bulking up, he's gaining weight, and he's been as good as advertised. He was viewed as a reach when the Washington Commanders drafted him. And there weren't too many people that had a first-round grade on Emmanuel Forbes. But if you go and you look at the film that he had coming out of Mississippi State, he was very good in coverage, has very good technique, fundamentals. This is somebody who could come in and kind of be what Tariq Woolen was last year, even though he was a first-round pick. And the reason why I feel like he could be what Tariq Woolen was this season is because nobody saw Tariq Woolen having the kind of rookie season that he had. Emmanuel Forbes, nobody's really talking about him in terms of the other great rookie cornerbacks like Devon Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, and Jory Porter Jr. You know about those guys. All those guys have been getting a lot of praise. But Emmanuel Forbes, you got to give this man some flowers for what he's been doing for the Commanders up to this point in camp, man. He's been holding his own against Scary Terry. He's been really good against the other wideouts that he's been matched up against. We got to give Emmanuel Forbes his flowers. So these are my most impressive rookies who've been showing out at training camp so far. Let me know if there are some rookies that I left off of this list. What are some rookies that have been really impressing you so far in training camp? Let me know down in the comment section down below.